Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in. It's Carrie Nicole. This is 3 reasons you're struggling with purpose. So we all have a purpose. We all have a reason that we're here. And oftentimes we struggle with how do we reach that purpose? What even is our purpose? And really fulfilling the purpose. And I've found in my own experience that a lot of times I've been disconnected from the purpose, but most of the time it's been because of who I exist in the world as. And that's the reason why purpose has been such a difficult part of life for me. And I think that this is true of a lot of other people as well. So the first one is you're pretending. So if you're walking in this world pretending to be someone that you're not, if you are functioning in a space that, doesn't feel authentic to you, then that's pretending. If you're pretending that your relationship is good, if you're pretending that you like the job that you're doing, if you're pretending that things don't bother you when they actually do, all of those will keep you from operating in your purpose because you're actually existing in the world as someone other than who you were created to be. And in that pretending, you're getting whatever that person would receive as blessings, but they're not blessings to you because they're not who you are. They're not related to who you are. So you're receiving the benefits of the person who you're pretending to be, but none of those are resonating with you because it's not you. So when you walk in the world and you are your authentic self, the things that you receive are a representation of who you feel the most confident to exist in the world. So if I'm pretending, then I don't feel confident in that. I feel insecure in who I'm being. But if I'm just simply being myself and not worrying about what anyone thinks of me or what anyone has to say, their opinion, then the things that I receive as blessings are actually mine and they feel like blessings because I'm living in that authentic person. So for that one, I would just encourage you to really figure out who you are and walk into this world unapologetically existing as that person, because that doesn't mean that you're trying to be better. It doesn't mean that you're not trying to experience the best life and put out into the world the best version of who you are. It simply means that you're okay with being that person regardless of what anyone else thinks, because you're so in tune and in alignment with what God says about you that you know exactly what you're supposed to operate in regardless of what's happening around you or the validation that you're not receiving externally. The second one is your people pleasing. So if you are doing what other people want you to do, if you're saying what other people want you to say, if you're literally existing in the world to make other people happy with you, then there's no way that you can fulfill a purpose. One, because you're tired. When you are existing in this world to please another person, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. It is physically exhausting and mentally exhausting and especially spiritually exhausting because you're not doing any of the things that bring you joy. You're not doing any of the things that have been downloaded into you as seeds to grow because your number one and main focus is to please that person or those people around you. And you're tired. You can't do anything more than what you're doing to please the people because that is a full-time, if not more, job. So if you're walking around the world being a people pleaser, trying to please everyone who's in your path, or especially trying to make it so that there's not chaos, and in doing that, you're pleasing people to avoid or eliminate any type of conflict, you're literally not fighting the battles that God has sent you to fight. You're not opposing the beliefs that God has sent you to be a vessel and voice for. And you're not truly operating in the space that He has for you, the purpose that He has for you, because you're so busy pleasing everyone else that you can't even please Him. And if you're doing that, I want you to really think about when you make a choice or a decision. If you have to be surrounded by these people, when you make a choice or a decision, you have to ask yourself, is this pleasing to God and is it pleasing to me? Those are the only 2 things that you have to know. Is it pleasing to God and is it pleasing to me? If you're too tired to go, He's telling you to rest. So don't force yourself to go. That's not pleasing to God, to go do something when he's telling you to rest. And it's not pleasing to you because you're literally bleeding yourself energy deficient in order to exert energy for other people. The second thing is to make sure that you're around people who hold your well-being at the same level as you do. And if they don't, they are there as energy vampires to suck all of the good out of you to recharge themselves. And so you're literally existing in the world as a host to a parasitic relationship. And that isn't going to lead you to your purpose. So really check, is it pleasing to God? Is it pleasing to me? And then check, is my circle bleeding me dry? And that's the reason that I feel the way I feel. And the third one is you're lying. So, when I think about the 10 commandments and thou shalt not lie, like when I was taught it as a kid, it was like, don't tell lies, like, because people are trying to keep you safe, and don't tell lies because it could get you in trouble, And I really thought about the extent of the little white lie or the I'm just saying this because I don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but that's included in there as well. When you're out here saying things just to impress other people, being someone just to impress other people, it is a lie. It is the life of a lie. And that life can't be purposeful because there is no purpose inside of a lie. And so when you're existing in the world and the things you're saying, doing, and being are all lies, you can't even expect to live in a purpose, because how do you give a purpose to a lie? You literally can't. And so when you're thinking about what you're saying, doing, and the way you're behaving, you have to ask, is this in alignment with me? Is this in alignment with who I am and who I want to be? A great example of this is like if you go out with your friends and you know that you don't want to get intoxicated. You know that maybe you want to have 1 or 2 glasses of wine. That's not like socially accepted anymore. People will be like, oh, you're boring because you're not drinking, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, if that's not in alignment with who you are, if you don't want to be driving in the car when you've had too many, if you don't want to be without your inhibitions because you've had too many and there are people around you pressuring you into doing it, so you do it anyway, you're living a lie. You're pretending like it's okay with you when it's not. So how are you to walk in spaces that you're purposed to be in if you're pretending to be people who don't belong in those spaces? It doesn't align. So you have to really think about alignment. What does God say about me? What do I know to be true about myself? And how am I walking in this world? And if there's any deviation in alignment between those 3 things, you have to figure out a way to fix it. Because here's the reality. If you're pretending, people-pleasing, or lying to get it, there's no way it can be from Him. He created you for what He intended, not for what you're pretending to be. So the person who created you as this vessel for what He intended for your life. And because you're pretending, you're not fulfilling any of those, I don't want to call them obligations, but just desires and purposeful intention for your life. Think of it like this. If a whisk, and I'm using, cooking references because I'm about to go cook. If a whisk was intended to mix ingredients together and you used it to prop up your cookbook, it's still being useful to you, but not in the capacity at which it could be, because you're pretending that it's purposed for this holding up the book, when the reality is it is purposed for fluffing the eggs and doing something that is beneficial to the food that you're cooking. And the same thing is true of you. If your gifts are for you to go out here and reach nations, but yet because you're pretending to be something that's more palatable to the people around you, you're not touching anyone because you're not even saying the things that he planted in you, then you're not going to fulfill that purpose. You're going to feel like you're living a life that it lacks significance, because you can't operate in that significance if you're not doing, being, and behaving and thinking in the way that you were created to do those things. So I would encourage you to really find alignment with yourself, what God says about you and who you are in this world. And once you do that, the opinions and beliefs of others will not even resonate or penetrate into your thought space, because it just won't matter, because you'll feel so on fire for the purpose that won't really hinder anything that you're doing. Thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't already, if you're someone who has experienced a toxic relationship and you're looking for peace after that toxic relationship, click on the link in this description, or also on my social media pages, to a free webinar to help you operate in that space of peace and find power inside of it. I would love to work with you. Thank you for tuning in. Look me up on all social media sites. And don't forget about the podcast, the Peace Podcast, that drops every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcast, as well as YouTube.